This is Jump Royale. It's a very unimpressive looking game, but that's because it was made entirely in 3 days. And it's actually pretty fun. It's played over Twitch chat, so I can connect over here by typing join, and it will spawn in my player in the world. And then same thing over here on a different account. So let's just focus on this one. The way that it works is you type jump commands with an angle. So for example, if I want to jump up and to the right by 45 degrees, I can just type jump 45, press enter, and my character jumps. If I want to jump straight up, I can press U. If I want to jump slightly to the left, for example, I could do something like L5. The goal is to get as high up in this world as you can. So if I just type in another couple of these commands here, you'll see my character go upward, and the camera will slowly pan to meet the characters who are at the top, and it'll get faster and faster as the game progresses. So that way at the beginning, while people are still learning the ropes, they have a chance to catch up until one of the characters just quickly outpaces them. And so this timer is running at the upper right. Games last for about 2.5 minutes. And then that's it. It'll cut to the end state, which will show the winners of that game. All right, with the demo out of the way, I want to cover some of the background of the game itself, and I want to fly through this and then cover some things that I think will be a little bit more interesting than that. I like making videos like this, but I really like it when people watch them and enjoy them. So anything that you find that you want me to dive into more or that you think was boring, please do leave a comment and let me know what you think. All right, the first part of background is the requirements. I needed the game to be short. I wanted it to fit entirely within my breaks. I didn't want to spend too long on the game, and it doesn't mean we can never come back to making this again, but I wanted to cap the original development to 3 days, and I needed people to be able to play via Twitch chat. As far as non-goals, I don't care too much that the game is original. I don't want it to be explicitly unfair, but there doesn't need to be a 100% level playing field. And finally, I don't need to host the game as a standalone game or get this to work through other people's streams as well. It was just intended for my stream. As far as how it was made, you can pause on this if you want to, but the only thing I want to really highlight here is that I did stream the whole thing. So if you want to watch what went into that development time, you can. And then the code is viewable here at this GitHub link. All right, on to what I find interesting here. Let's start with talking about constraints. We had three main requirements for this project, and they formed our constraints. If we had 10 or 20 requirements, it might feel overly restrictive, but I think the constraints actually benefited here. Let's start by looking at the game duration. At the high end, we had 5 minutes here. If you were to work backwards from 5 minutes, you might think, okay, we need a little bit of time for the start, a little bit of time for the end. So that gives us about 3-ish minutes for the game itself. That is why these are called mini games. And you really have to think about what fits into that time. If you were to play this same game, Jump Royale, for 10 minutes, you'd probably get bored at some point. If you were to only play for 30 seconds, there wouldn't be enough time to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd. So that's what steered us into these decisions that we made here for the game duration. Similarly, on the duration front, there was the development duration of 3 days of development time. That leads to aggressive prioritization. And there were many times when people would propose an idea where I said, look, that's great, but I can't code that in the next 2 hours. So we'll have to table it for later if I ever come back to this project. What I was trying to consider for that entire time was the minimum viable product, or essentially the smallest vertical through your game. In our case, it was joining the game, being able to jump, having things to jump on, and then having the end screen. And so there would be times when I looked at the arena generation and it's a bunch of random platforms. That isn't what I envisioned, but there wasn't enough time to do it the way I would have wanted and still make the rest of the game be solid. And so if I had more dev time for this, let's say I had planned on having 2 months, I would have probably spent a week or two just focusing on that arena generation and making sure there was enough visual interest and variety as you're going through it. On to the final constraint slash requirement here, which is Twitch chat controls, which is actually two different things. It's the input into the game, and it's also being able to see what's going on through the stream. And so this expands into a few sub constraints. One is that there should be simple commands. You shouldn't need to type a lot. It shouldn't be a lot to learn. It should be easy to see what's going on in the game. So yes, if we had 1,000 players, it would probably be pretty tough. We'd probably need a way to identify you. But in general, everyone's looking at the same screen, and you should be able to understand what you have to do and how to do it. And finally, there's latency from the viewer to me, the broadcaster. You might only be seeing the game update after 3 seconds. And so you type your jump command and you might not see your character move immediately, like if you were playing a video game with a controller right in front of you. So we need to consider all these things when it comes to the design of the game. The next really interesting thing to me was that I was doing all of this live, so I got immediate feedback. And this could take the form of 30 people joining immediately and then finding a bug with commands that they would type that I hadn't thought of. And that's great. But I think the more important part is that there were pieces of my design that could be improved that I didn't find out about until people were testing the game. And so let's look at the foundational part of this game, which is how you jump. You type !jump and then an angle from 0 to 180 and then a power from 1 to 5,000. So originally 0 would jump to the left and 180 would jump to the right. And people got a little bit confused about, okay, if I want to jump at 45 degrees, I have to add 90 to that, so it's 135. So instead, we just changed it to be -90 to 90, and now you knew that negative was to the left and positive was to the right. Similarly with power, if you were to jump 1,000 power, first of all, what is that? How far is that? Is that half a screen? Is it the whole screen? And then you jumped to 2,000 power and it was like 5 times the distance. So what we did is we normalized it, so you don't need to know what is the maximum. It's just a percentage system now. So 100% is your maximum distance, and it's roughly proportional to 5 times what a 20% jump would be. And so now we had this command, we changed some of the parameters, but people were always jumping the maximum distance because this game is all about getting as high as possible. So why not make power be optional and default it to 100? And why type the exclamation mark? Let's just drop that. And why type the word jump at all? Why not just have it be J? And so what we ended up with after all of these steps is we had a very short system of typing jumps. So J45 would make you jump to the upper right, and just U would make you jump straight up, and L15 would make you jump a little bit to the left. Overall, this was a really short project, but I think it was a success, and a success on 2 fronts. One, we got it done in the time that I had allotted for it. And 2, I think people found it fun to play. And I myself found it fun to watch. I know that I was supposed to queue this up during my breaks, but I would still sit here sometimes and watch people play and see how they're having fun, and then realize, wait, I'm supposed to step away from my computer. That's the whole reason I made this game. 2 is that constraints do help. If you ever find yourself overwhelmed, maybe there's a lot of creative space that you have, or a problem seems really large, just cut through it in some way. And so you could cut down in scope, or you can cut down in the amount of things you're allowed to do. Again, imagine if you were to write a story and you didn't know where to start. Well, why not start by making it a 10-page story, and it has to involve no more than 2 characters. It makes it easier to approach a problem or a task that you have. Finally, if you want to play this, if you want to watch me develop, here's the link to my Twitch stream. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please do let me know what you find helpful from this or what you want to see in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.